Hi, I'm Lorena Jorge and welcome to Faith Film Festival, our weekly program showcasing a group of short films that inspire, give hope, and celebrate faith. Today's entry, Missions to Mississippi, focuses on a hard-hit but forgotten part of the Gulf Coast in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. When government assistance was slow in coming to Biloxi, Mississippi, groups of volunteers arrived to rebuild the devastated region. This is their story.
Biloxi, Mississippi, February 2007. A year and a half has already passed since Hurricane Katrina changed the lives of everyone along the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But some things haven't changed. It's Mardi Gras time. There's an air of normalcy and celebration as the annual event winds its way through downtown Biloxi. But less than a mile away, there are stark reminders that wherever you look, life in Biloxi is far from normal. It is 18 months since Hurricane Katrina devastated the Gulf Coast. Along I-90 that stretches along the Gulf, businesses, schools, museums, hotels, and houses of worship were either wiped out or badly damaged by the storm. Slabs of concrete are now all that's left of where some homes once stood. Other homes have been reduced to hollowed-out shells. Those who lost homes or are rebuilding now live in trailers. These scenes of desolation and destruction are repeated all over the Mississippi coast. It is nearly 2 years later, and people are still trying to piece their lives back together, still hoping to regain a sense of normalcy.
Just come back from Iraq a couple days right before Hurricane Katrina hit. And as soon as I got back in, had bunkered down on saying go for shelter. I didn't want to go to shelter at first. My wife said she wanted to go, so we went. And luckily we did because by the time we got back to the house, after Hurricane Katrina came through, my house was pretty much flooded. I lost a lot of valuable things that was valuable to me. I had to basically sleep out in front of our house and in front of tents until I got the money to actually start rebuilding on my house. I mean, it was devastating. Actually, I wasn't prepared to come back home. You know what I'm saying? From Iraq here, seeing a lot of things going on over there. Then I come back, it's just crazy. I wasn't prepared for it at all. Not at all. No.
All my friends, all my relatives, we can't get over how much help we have received from all the people all over the world, all over the United States. My daughter's house, she lives about 2 blocks from here. It was totally gutted. A couple from Michigan came. They put in new heating, they put in new plumbing, they did the walls, they put in a new roof. They were able to help her that she could get back in her house. And this was just like about 5 months ago.
It's just so much work, and just looking at your life has crumbled, you know. So you didn't know, I didn't exactly know what to do or where to go and stuff. And then the volunteers came in and it's just one help. All you have to do, you don't really have to ask. They'll stop by and they'll say, do you need help? And I'll be like, oh yes, please give us help.
The coast would not recover without the volunteers. There have been thousands and thousands and thousands, and they are a blessing like we could not imagine. We just could not make it without them.
2 miles from Biloxi, an interfaith group has come to the small community of Ocean Springs, which, like Biloxi and so many areas near the Gulf, was hit hard by Katrina. Pete Jones, a retired Marine, is the Disaster Relief and Recovery Coordinator for St. John's Episcopal Church in Ocean Springs.
Here we are 18 months after Hurricane Katrina, and we're at a site where at least 4 or 5 homes were lost on August 29th. As you can see, as I look around, I'm standing on a slab, what used to be a house. Next door is the garage, and off to my right is the remnants of another lot where the home was totally destroyed, and off to my left are the remnants of 3 homes as we go up the block. This scene that you see here is repeated for over 100 miles along the coast. And from any waterfront, it goes in about 2 to 3 blocks of total destruction and another 2 blocks where major flooding occurred, and the structures are still standing.
One such house still standing is located at 415 Ruskin Avenue. It's been home to the Hale family for the past 12 years. The storm spared the structure of their home, but the floodwaters destroyed everything inside, forcing Michael, Michelle, their teenage daughter Haven, and their dog Duncan to live in a trailer for the past year and a half. With assistance coming from their local parish, St. John's Episcopal Church, the Hale family was one of many to receive help from large volunteer groups. Today, volunteers from New York have come to help the Hales get back into their home. As the group gathers inside, Michael and Michelle tell their harrowing story of how they barely escaped Katrina's floodwaters with their lives.
Pushing furniture out of the way, and we hugged that wall. We realized those used to be glass doors from top to bottom, and we did not know that the water had pushed those in, that there was jagged glass this long all along that wall, and for some reason we hugged this wall, and he flipped the deep freeze over, and we looked at each other and said, there's a possibility we could drown because there was a wrought iron thing on this door in there. So we came back the way we went, and that's pretty much when we went into shock about how. But the good Lord was watching after us, because if we had gone 3 feet that way, if we had gotten flayed by that glass, we'd have bled to death, because there was no emergency. There was 38 feet of water from the bottom of the street up here.
How fast did that water level rise?
We were on the phone with my dad and my stepmom at, was it 20 after 9? 20 after something, I don't remember. It might have been even earlier than that. And when the water started rushing in so fast, we told them we're going to have to go. And we found the clock that was over the stove, and it stopped at 4 minutes till the next hour. So from 20 after till 4 minutes.
6 feet.
That's how quick it happened.
The height of the water right along this street was 35 feet high. And that would put it into their home, and on this particular tree would bring us above the Ys in those branches. So because of the storm surge, this tree was probably completely underwater because it would just be bending at the top. And so at some point, if you were actually looking at this or had the ability to look at it from overhead, you probably couldn't see this tree at all. It would have been completely underwater, as the wind and the waves would have just been bending the top of this tree almost to the point of just breaking it in half. So it's kind of hard to imagine right now. Here we are on this beautiful day. We're standing, it's completely dry, that this area right here was just underwater for hours.
The water started rising. It was early in the morning. It started in a slow wave motion. Each time the water wave went this way and that way, it rose 2 feet. Back this way, 2 more feet. Water was shooting in through these windows. It got about knee deep, and that's when we decided we would evacuate to our neighbors. It was not that scary at that time, but when we evacuated and went down the steps, then we were in significantly deeper water. And we kind of half waded, half swam with our animals to our next door neighbors.
They swam probably through this tree right here and swam to the back of my house, I guess because there was less water in the back. and banged on the door, and one of them said, "It's all gone, it's all gone." And they came in and we got towels and dried them off, and then they joined us all looking out the window watching the storm.
It was a lonely feeling, but not as lonely as after the storm had passed and walking out into the debris and rubble and just seeing the devastation and knowing that you were at the mercy of just waiting for someone to come help.
The people on this side, their house was in 3 pieces. And the lot on the other side of them, their second story of their house was in the middle of the road.
We were quite a photo op for a long time, but we still had a structure standing. Granted, all the contents and everything had to be gutted and we lost all of our possessions, but at least we had something to work with. And just the fact that we could live in a trailer in front of this house gave us comfort. We did not have to move. We were able to stay in the neighborhood and have some kind of, it sounds ironic, semblance of normalcy just because we were not displaced. But we still consider ourselves lucky because we could have easily died. And we look at life a lot differently. Our new motto is if you don't need it, you don't use it, and you can't wear it, we're not going to have it. Our priorities have changed greatly, but we think for the better.
The response by volunteers from both within state and out of state was just amazing. We had out-of-state volunteers come to St. John's 2 days after the storm. Because of these volunteers who have so generously poured in from all over the country, that we along the coast are able to repair and rebuild and regrow with a renewed hope.
Pastor Chris Matlowski of Dobbs Ferry Lutheran Church explains how he got involved with the relief effort here in Ocean Springs.
About a week after the storm hit, a year and a half ago, my congregation and I wanted to respond in some way. And so we talked about making a trip down to Mississippi. And 6 months after the storm, we came last year with a group of 10 of us who came to Ocean Springs. This is where we were assigned. And we saw some of the worst devastation that we could ever imagine. And it really moved us deeply. And we had the opportunity to work for a number of residents here in Ocean Springs, get to know them, get to meet them, get to hear their stories, get moved by the trauma and tragedy they experienced, but also make a difference, help them continue the rebuilding process. And we're back now. Instead of 10 from last year, we're back with 53. And it's been exciting and wonderful to have a group of people so committed, so inspired to come and really help these folks continue their rebuilding process.
The flurry of people around, everyone, what they can do to help. It's fantastic.
It's amazing.
Rabbi Billy Dreskin of Woodlands Community Temple in Greenburg, a longtime friend of Pastor Chris Matlowski, heard about his experiences and decided to make the trip this year with his congregants as well.
My friend Pastor Chris Matlowski brought his church here a year ago, and when he came back and told us all about it, I said, don't you dare go back without inviting our synagogue to come with you. This opportunity to come down and actually put our hands on the materials and help recreate a home like this is it's an honor. We don't think we're going to build an entire house. If we can paint a wall, if we can help a family move one step closer to being able to get back into their home, then our expectations will have been more than fulfilled.
It's really hot in here.
Displaced from their home, the Hales were able to borrow a trailer from friends and had to find a way to live as comfortably as possible with their teenage daughter and their dog.
This is where we live. This is my bed that really should be the dining room table, but we just leave it down. It's too much trouble to take them down. This is where we cook. You can see I can lay in bed and almost wash dishes. Then this is my husband's space, which is all communal space. We have no room to keep any clothes. This is the bathroom that where we've been showering and living, and I can jump in there and let you take a look of, this is how much room you have when you're showering. This is your space. My husband's head hits this, so it's really tight. And you have 2 minutes before the hot water runs out. And then this is my daughter's room. We felt like since the storm that to help her, being a teenager, we let her have her own bedroom. Mm-hmm. And it's helped a lot because she has her space, and her friends come and they pile up and listen to music. But we felt it was very important for her to have the largest space to just help her stay focused and not get depressed.
Those less fortunate who were not able to secure a trailer on their own had to wait to be assigned to a FEMA trailer park where they weren't sure what life would be like and what conditions they would have to face.
We're turning in here. This is the Ocean Springs EGH site, which means it's Emergency Government Housing. And this is basically your FEMA trailer park. And this is the ritziest one. This is the one where they don't have as many domestic violence disputes and not the problems that they've had in other ones. This trailer park probably sprang up about 2 to 3 months after the hurricane. I'm not really sure when this one opened up. But FEMA trailers really didn't start coming down and being made available, readily available, even though you might have registered for one 3 days after the storm. They really were not being brought down till 3 months after the storm. So you can imagine people 3 months nowhere to live. The government just could not respond quickly enough. They were not prepared for this type of disaster. They tried, and they did what they did when they finally got it together was good, but it just took so long and people suffered so badly in the beginning. It was just really miserable. And then trying to wait and see what was going to happen. We know everybody thinks it was New Orleans, but it was just one ward of New Orleans. The rest of New Orleans was fine. It was just one ward, and I do feel bad for those people. But we're talking about 40 or 50 miles of the state of Mississippi being gone. I mean, it's gone. It's not even there. All of our antebellum homes, just if you were within a mile or two of the beach, you lost everything you owned.
There's a foundation of a home getting rebuilt way down the end of this bayou, and from what I understand, that house and 6 others that were wrecked by the storm is now deposited in this part of this bayou. That the 7 houses were just slammed, blown apart, and the storm forced the mess, the materials into this area, which then settled after the storm resided. And now what needs to happen is that there needs to be crews of people, like our group out there, who need to hand carry each of these pieces from the marsh area up to the street where the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Transportation here in the community will take this away. As this crew is pulling out the debris, chunks of wood and boards, mixed with all this debris are some personal items that are really very stirring, very moving. You see toys, obviously belonging to some children who lived here at one point. This is a CD case from somebody's prom in 2005. Ocean Springs High School prom 2005. Presenting the Stars was the theme.
We're finding lots of good stuff and lots of sad stuff as well. Stuffed snowman, stuffed animals, little Thomas the Tank Engine trains, things like that. Let you know there were families who were living here whose stuff is now all over the place.
It's kind of dirty. Here's Thomas the Tank Engine. I found this along with balloons and a baby bottle.
Last year we saw all of these neighborhoods with just piles of rubble, for whatever didn't get washed back into the Gulf. Piles of rubble sitting on the property, and now a year later we're just seeing concrete slabs.
See the property.
So people have really cleared a lot of that junk away, and the grass is now green. Last year, everything was brown. The salt water had killed all vegetation, trees, flowers, grass. So anything green here was not green last year. It was all brown.
Starting in there, in the middle, you can see little shards of green.
Yeah, it's starting to come up. And see, that's the new life. That's the new life. We're seeing more of that now, this new life, both in the vegetation and in people's lives.
You can be the most giving person. You can give money, you can send checks, you can take part in fundraisers for disasters like this that are far away from you, even in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. But until you come down here to a place like this, until you've seen it for yourself, you can't comprehend how horrendous a disaster this has been and how many people have been affected, and really how nature is so powerful.
Even now, it's amazing how powerful the flood was. It's amazing how many people were affected. It's amazing how many people are still living in trailers.
I guess we were surprised by how many homes are still just completely either falling down or in such bad shape. Here it is 18 months later, and it's just shocking to come down and see that there's so many homes that still need to be rebuilt.
You come down here, you see the destruction all over. There are homes that are just empty shells. They look nice from the outside, but if you really look at them, you look right through them because there's nothing inside. No walls, no nothing. Then there's other homes that are waiting to be torn down. Their roofs are collapsed. It's horrible.
Until you come down here, you really don't know the magnitude of what actually happened. Until you see the shoes floating in the swamp, and you really know that there are people living here just a few months earlier, and you see just how quickly everything got wiped out, that you really feel the magnitude of this disaster.
What amazed me about this is that we were riding along 90, looking at how nice the beaches were, and then finding out that that didn't used to be a beach. That used to be all hotels and stores and restaurants, and now it's just a beautiful white beach.
The physical damage that Katrina caused is still easily visible. But as Pete Jones tells his personal story to the group from New York, Katrina's aftermath took its toll on those trying to recover from the storm in other ways.
Shortly after the storm, we took out all the carpets in our house. We only had 3 carpets in our house. It was all tile. So we got all that stuff out and dried off the floors. And I knew there wasn't much that I could do in the way of just ripping everything out by myself. And the other part of it was that inside of my heart, I needed to be here at the church. Okay, I was the junior warden. That's the person that's in charge of buildings and grounds. So that means I'm responsible for the church building. And although I tried to do a little bit at the house, I kept finding myself being tugged, and I came here to the church. And I ended up helping a lot of other people, who in turn helped me. Volunteers would come in and they'd come out to my house and help me rip all the drywall out of my house too. But for whatever reasons, it affected my wife in such a way that she just didn't think things were happening fast enough. She didn't think that I cared. And so she asked me not to be with her anymore. So as a result of Katrina, here in about a week or so, I'll probably be officially divorced. And that's just one of the fallouts. And it's happened to many, many couples. So I've lost a lot. But I still need to be here, because this is what I think God wants me to be doing. He wants me to be helping people. And the only way that I can really help people is by having people like you who volunteer to come in, because I can't do all the work myself. There's just too much work out there to be done. And So I will continue to do this for as long as it's possible and for as long as the need exists and for as long as people like you will keep coming back.
The only way to speed up the process is to have, volunteers and people and the manpower to make it go faster and people to reach out from all over, because there's obviously not enough people living here to rebuild all that's been destroyed.
Let me give you some statistics here. If we were to build 50 homes a day, it would take Mississippi over the next 10 years to put back the number of homes that were destroyed in the storm. We are nowhere near building 50 homes a day. And so just by the simple math, we could be rebuilding Mississippi for the next 20 to 30 years. And without assistance from out of state, it would take even longer. So really our volunteer groups are what's given us so much of an edge, or what's given us the ability to rebuild as far as we have. A lot of people come down here to Mississippi and they see the devastation and they think, oh my God, why hasn't more been done? But we look at it from being here and seeing it every day, and we thank those volunteers for all the work that they have done. Every time a new group of volunteers comes in, it kind of invigorates us. It just rejuvenates us. It's amazing to see that what they've come down here to do for us is so much more than perhaps cleaning out debris or putting a coat of paint on somebody's house or hanging drywall. It really touches everybody's heart. And what's amazing is that we've had friendships that have begun that never would have begun. But as a result of this storm, we've got this community of brotherhood from all over the place that is, well, it's nothing short of miracles.
Louis Stifel's Mission to Mississippi was a truly powerful film. That's all for today, but make sure to visit our website where we have some additional films, and remember, on our next program, you'll be able to vote for the grand prize winner. So make sure to keep track of your favorite movies online. I'm Lorena Jorge, and I'll see you next time on this season's final episode of Faith Film Festival.